there, fellow humans. Today I want to talk about something that I call the Pershing scale, which is, I think, one of the most important things to consider in World of Tanks Blitz. So what is the Pershing scale? Well, it's that. Now, this thing is very, very useful to determine whether a tank is good or not, because if it is left of the Pershing on this scale, then you should absolutely not get it. However, if it's right of the Pershing on the scale, then you possibly should get it, because the thing about the Pershing is that it is the perfect meh tank in Blitz. It can perform absolutely amazingly, and by the way, if you care about these things, it prints W and 8 like nothing else. It's a tank that can do extremely well, but that also can do extremely badly. Now, why is that? In its upgraded configuration, you do have a gun that is quite good for what it is. Now, you have 180mm of AP penetration, which is absolutely horrible. However, it is fairly balanced by the fact of having extremely good premium penetration and having very good DPM, which means even if you fire APCR the entire time, you still do have a somewhat reasonable amount of DPM. Now, the accuracy and the aim time are somewhere in the middle. You have 10 degrees of gun depression, which is something that is always very nice. Average speed of 34, which is, you know, up there. And then you have an armor profile that essentially, well, the hull can be penned by most things. Some tier 7s are going to struggle to pen it because it is 100mm. So, you know, if you have like 160mm of penetration, you might struggle to get through that. Same with the sides as well if it's at an angle. The turret, you got a very, very good mantlet here, but outside of the turret, it can be penned pretty easily. So this vehicle is very much the definition of it exists, which is very good to determine how good other tanks are. And yes, light tanks, tank destroyers, and heavies as well. Now, how does that work? So now I've made this highly scientific table to show what I mean. Now, to win the Pershing table, all you need is 3 green. Now, you have gun, armor, speed, and the fun. The fun is something that you have to decide for each and every vehicle for yourself. Now, for example, here in my Pershing scale, the tier 5, it has a better gun, it has better armor, however, it's no fun. So it gets 2, and the speed is dark red because it's absolutely horrible, which means it doesn't win the Pershing scale. So the T4 E2, on the other hand, has 3, so it does win. The Panther 88 always loses because it's shit. But now let's actually play the Pershing, and you can clearly see the armor profile of the vehicle right there. The hull is semi-effective, where the turret, the gun mantlet is very strong. However, the size of the turret really aren't that great. So how do you find out what tank is better than the Pershing and what was worse than the Pershing? Well, you play the Pershing. And this thing, as I already mentioned, it absolutely prints W and 8. About 3,000 average damage is going to give you 10,000, which is important to the people that care about that sort of thing. Now, the thing about the Pershing is that it's there. It's not a tank that is extremely good, but it's also not a tank that is bad. It has solid enough mobility. It can get you wherever you want it to be. It has armor that if you use your 10 degrees of gun depression, you have a turret that can bounce low shots, especially if you dynamically move back and forth. You have a gun that can pen most things with AP and APCR, and that has high enough DPM that when you have to eventually result to APCR, because you can't pen anything with their AP, that you will still have somewhat above average DPM, and that's a big problem with a lot of tier 8 medium tanks, that they just don't have any clear-cut advantages over the heavies, be it DPM or even mobility. Because here's the thing, a lot of heaviums have fairly similar mobility to the mediums, but have way better guns, way better armor. So, you know, tier 8 mediums are not in a great place. However, that's why the Pershing scale exists, because the Pershing does in fact exist. Now, as you saw, the fun part is completely up to you, and you decide what's more fun than the Pershing and what is not. If every tank's more than a Pershing, congratulations. All the tanks win the Pershing table. However, if that's not the case, for example, if you don't like tank destroyers, then yes, like a TS5, you may have better firepower, may have better armor. However, it still doesn't win your Pershing table or mine. So that's a very easy way. Now, obviously, the Pershing itself only really works for tier 8, but that's essentially the most important tier anyway, because that's where all the premium tanks are at. Because here's the thing, if a tank doesn't even win the Pershing scale, how the hell is it ever going to be worth it? Well, The easy answer is it is not. And obviously that's a very, very easy, clear filter, and if it has 4 out of 4, then that tank can be 8k, 9k, 10k gold, and it can still be worth it. However, if it has 2 out of 4, then why would you even consider it, even at a price of, let's say, 4k? Like, for example, a 59 pattern. And that's obviously the very important thing here, because there are a lot of premium tanks in tier 8. There's also a lot of standard tanks in tier 8 as well. You have something like a Tiger that would win if you like the Tiger, if you have fun in the Tiger, because that's obviously that important 4th one that you want to have 3 out of 4. If you're not having fun with the vehicle, it doesn't matter whether it's better, because then your objective in the game, which is to waste your precious lifetime and to have a good time, is not really given. Obviously, if your objective is to play as good as possible, then that might not apply, but then you can substitute the fun one for is good at farming, damage, WN8, whatever you want, and it still works the same way. Now, it might sound a bit dumb, however, it's a pretty easy way to figure out, is it a tank I want, is it a tank I don't want, is it a tank I should get? Because when you take something like a Pershing, which has been in the game since pretty much the beginning, and something that is pretty simple to figure out, I mean, there's no big science to playing Pershing, then it is going to be very easy to figure out what tanks are good for you and what tanks are not. And now, how do you find out the speed and the armor and all that kind of thing? Now, a tool for that is, for example, Blitz stars. I am not getting paid by them, but it's a good site. So, you can look it up there. If it's better than the Pershing, then yes, it wins. If it's worse than the Pershing, it loses. It's that very simple. So, without knowing much about the tanks, all of them, if you know one tank really well, then you can compare everything to it. And in my opinion, I would lobby for the Pershing to be that one tank. That is the one that you don't know 100%. Because it's the Pershing, that's why. Now, you could also take something else, like a Tiger or like a T-44, but not really. Because again, you do have the 10 degrees of gun depression with this vehicle, which means you have the top of the line there, which means everything that's lower than that, you know, has to make up for that already with something else, right? Now, 268mm of APCR penetration goes through everything, so which means if your tank has 200mm of standard penetration, but only 230mm of premium penetration, it doesn't win. Because if it also then has lower DPM, that ain't it. Because if the Pershing can maintain higher DPM while having 268 pen, then the Pershing wins now, right? So that's why I think that the Pershing is a tank that is not that complex to figure out, but very easy to compare to. Which means, I don't know the point of this video anyway. I just wanted to make something, I guess, but keep it in mind. Think about it when you buy a premium tank, when you research a new tank, think about it. Obviously, if you've never played if you have every tank besides the Pershing, it obviously doesn't work. So you may pick another tank for this. It doesn't have to be the Pershing. However, what I would do is pick myself some average reference tank that's just about fine, and then compare, is it better, is it worse? And if it's worse, don't even look at it, don't even touch it, don't even bother. And if it's just about the same, but it costs 12k gold, like a Rheinpanzer, you'd have to be insane. But with that said, thank you for watching, see you in the next one, hope you learned something, goodbye.